Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. Thanks for tuning in. I gotta tell you, I'm sitting down here in the basement bait shop, starting to think already about next season. We're not that far away. You know, I've got rods, I got so much work I gotta do already to get prepared for next season. I've been really spending a lot of time doing videos, trying to get a pretty good backlog of videos stored up, and I've been working my butt off trying to get as many lake breakdowns done for the Fish the Moment website that I can get done before the tournament season starts, because I know once that starts, that's where my focus is going to be. So I'm trying to get as many lake breakdowns done of lakes that a lot of the viewers out there have requested. So if you want to check those out, the description for the Fish the Moment website's in my description for the video. So head over there, check it out. If there's any other lakes you want me to get done, send it my way in the comment section so I know what other lakes you guys are looking for me to do. But in the meantime, I have been getting a lot of comments regarding winter fishing and when to use a small swim bait like this Berkley Power Swimmer on a Matt Steffen Dirty Jigs guppy head versus an underspin. I mean, they both are great winter baits, totally killer techniques, but I do really think that there are big differences as to when I prefer to throw an underspin versus a small swim bait. So I guess the first thing to talk about here is the underspin. You know, the underspin to me is more of an aggressive approach that does entice better bites as a whole, versus, you know, the number of fish that you're going to catch on a small swim bait. But there are very specific times when I prefer to throw an underspin. The first being when I'm fishing in the winter. Generally, I'm going to be fishing much deeper with this bait. Not to say you can't fish deep with a small swim bait, but the thing here is if I'm fishing really deep, and I'm talking in that 20 to 40 foot range, when you start getting down to those levels, the amount of sunlight penetration is really it's just getting much smaller than what it would be in that first 10 feet of the water column. So if I've got a bait like an underspin that's got a good amount of flash, that bait will give off way more vibration, way more flash at those deeper depths where it's going to draw fish to it. This bait right here looks like one or two or three bait fish together, and it's going to draw more attention from those deeper fish that are out suspended, sitting over treetops, sitting in ditches, in drains, that type of cover. So I want a bait that's going to draw their attention. An underspin, I think, is probably the best deep water suspending fish bait that you can throw. For that reason, it will draw fish to it. It's a really good bait. And if you've got largemouth spotted bass or smallmouth around, they all will hit that bait. So I'm going to sit here and say that, you know, the underspin has a really good place in your boat, but, you know, it's almost always for me at a deeper level versus a small swim bait. For me, this is just an all-around bait. You can throw it up on the bank, you can throw it out in 30, 40 feet, but it really shines in that top 20 feet of the water column. And it really shines when you're fishing around more like specific targets. So if you've got a treetop that you know you can cast it over, if you've got a dock that you can swim it by, if you've got a brush pile, I feel like, to me, a small swim bait is a great bait if you've got isolated targets. I don't like throwing that underspin around the isolated targets as much because I feel like I just generally get hung up a lot more. And yes, it still will get those bites, but if I'm getting hung up more, it just doesn't seem like it's as productive. And I don't normally throw those underspins in shallow water because I don't think they run as well. I'd rather throw a spinner bait in the shallower water. So in, you know, 10 foot of water or less, I'm probably going to throw a spinner bait. I do like the underspin when I'm out fishing suspended fish because it's a much more natural presentation than a spinner bait. But if I've got any cover around and I'm in relatively shallow water, 10 feet or less, I'm going to throw a spinner bait before I do that. And I'm going to throw the small swim bait as well, just because I know I've got a better chance. I got more control bringing this bait around that shallower cover. But it's such a versatile bait that I can throw this anywhere. So, if I'm fishing a deep point and I'm catching fish up in 10 foot or less, I can throw it. If all of a sudden I stop getting bit and I want to start throwing it out the other side of the boat and fishing 20 to 30 feet, I can do that as well. And I think in those situations, I'm going to get more bites on this little guy. I'm not going to say that, I'm going to get every bite's going to be the same caliber of fish, because I do think you get a better quality fish on the underspin, especially if you're throwing one that's got like a full-size fluke or just a larger body on it. But I don't think in the winter, guys, that you can really go wrong with either bait, because this time of year, generally those fish are going to be 15 to 30 feet, unless you've got really good conditions, a good sunny day, a nice breeze with a warm top water being pushed into the shoreline that's going to draw fish up onto the bank. Your best bet is to fish those deeper 45-degree banks or steeper to the bluff walls. And at that point, that's when you're talking an underspin and a small swim bait. Both those baits really, really do perform well in those cases. But for me, if I'm fishing, if I'm not fishing strictly suspended fish, I'm probably throwing the small swim bait. If I know I'm fishing suspended fish that are out chasing shad, at that point, then the underspin is going to be my go-to bait. But to be honest with you, in the winter, if I'm fishing relatively deep water, so that 20 to 40 foot range, I've probably got both tied on. So I'm not going to sit here and answer your questions, guys, and say that there is one right or one wrong bait to use, because I think you're going to get bit on both. I will say that if you are winter fishing, you're better off going with as light of a weight as possible. You want your bait just to kind of hover through that water column. You want to allow those lethargic wintertime fish to be able to track that bait and come over and eat it without expelling a ton of energy. In the winter months, it's way easier for a fish to build up the energy to go eat a dying fish that they know isn't going to escape from them, versus a fish that they may go over and make an attempt at, but if the fish swims fast, they're just not going to expel nearly as much energy. So a dying shad, a slow presentation to mimic a dying shad, is probably the best way to go in the winter, in my opinion. And because of that, I'm going with lighter weights. If I'm fishing, if I can get a 3/16 ounce or a 1/4 ounce underspin down to that 30-foot mark, that's what I'm going to do. And it's really more just a matter of pendulating the bait to make sure that, it's staying at the depth range that I want it to. So anyways, guys, no wrong answer here. Both baits are killer baits in the wintertime. It just kind of comes down to where you're fishing, what depth range you're fishing, and whether it's truly suspended fish or are they bottom fish. So I hope this was helpful. I hope it answers your questions. I appreciate all the comments that I'm getting, because they are giving me some really good topics to discuss. And if you've got those questions, I'm sure other people have the same questions. So shoot them over in the comment section. I'll be happy to answer them in future videos. Otherwise, guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for tomorrow's video.